am pretty sick. So I'll probably be doing less of the talking and letting these boys carry it as I'm running the stream. But we'll get things underway. So we'll start off. Everyone, opinions on overall this weekend. How do we think the CDL looks? How do we think it's going to be for the coming weekend? And what do we think about how everything was handled?
What we can say, what we can say is the CDL as a whole was a massive success this weekend. I think the production, from a production standpoint, I think it was pretty much perfect. There are a few hiccups, a few moments where things like that just happen because it's a new production team anyway. But from just a professional standpoint, when I first watched the stream, I thought this was sort of TV quality. So I think it was really good. From a professional perspective, we're not talking about challenges. The pro event was pretty much perfect in my opinion. But then again, I wasn't at the event and I wasn't a player, and they probably have very different opinions of it, as we can tell already.
I think from what we've seen though, like all the new the player entrances and stuff. I think it was Cammy. We called him Killer Cam. He just comes on waving. It's like little things like that. It's just little things like that. It makes it so much better, and it's something that we haven't really seen a lot of. So it's nice to actually see. And as Brody said, the production as well, like just the cardcaster, etc., and the transitions and stuff was so clean. I think the only thing that I seen that was a sort of on a whim for me was sort of the free view on the cardcasters. I mean, there was a lot of free view used, which
third person.
It was. Yeah,
the third person was the worst thing about it. The free view was actually quite well done after day one.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But yeah, I mean, I agree. It was very well run for the first event. For a launch event, it actually ran quite smoothly. From what we saw, there are a few hiccups obviously before the tournament actually kicked off with regards to the setups apparently, which is rather unfortunate. But again, it's a launch weekend. These things will get ironed out over the course of time. And the competition was fierce all weekend long. You know, we had some fantastic games going on, some big upsets, and some pretty interesting results as well.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it. In all fairness, I mean, there was a few things leading into the event that really did kind of put a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, with regards to announcements not being on until the day, especially the thing with being knowing your streams. But that's just part of the teething issues, I suppose, that happens when you're creating a new franchise league and you have to get these things out there pretty quickly. You don't really have a lot of time to kind of make these announcements amongst the deals, which probably were all going down last minute anyway. Once people realised the actual success that and the gravitas that this league could have, so I think it's forgivable in a sense. I'm really happy with actually how the event ran overall. I'm really happy with the desk segment. I'm really happy that we have TP back on the desk as well. I think that's a great addition. Obviously, that's just for homestead events, at least with Minnesota, but I really hope he's back for more than one event. I obviously enjoyed Nameless, and the casting, as always, is the core 3 duos, which was fantastic from every point of view. Like Sean just said in the chat, TP isn't perm, just that event. But I do say I hope we get him back for more events. I really do. I think he was great. Much better than what we had last year with Pac-Man. I'll come out and say that. I don't think Pac-Man was a great analyst for broadcast talent. But even still, I thought it was a great tournament. I thought Gary V and co did a gret job. I loved Gary V on stream as well, just straight getting himself fined on his own stream. Quality stuff. And all round, pretty good event. I'm pretty happy with how the pro side of it was. Obviously, the CDC side of it was a little bit different, but we'll go and talk about that later on. I suppose with presentation of the CDL and all, do we feel like it's going to be a pretty good year for Call of Duty, all things considered, from what we've just seen?
CDL-wise, fucking yeah. CDL-wise, it's going to be a brilliant. From the pro perspective, this year is going to be the best year of presentation that we're going to have, full stop. Just the amount of effort that they're going to put into it, from what I've seen so far, insane. So for the pros, this is going to be the best year of Call of Duty we've ever seen, and that's great because that's of course that's sort of the front of Call of Duty, as it were, the face of Call of Duty. You know, people come in through either pros. So I think it's going to be great, to be honest. I mean, you can't just look at that, the way they presented the stream. As George said, the casters were perfect. You really can't get much better casters than the ones we've got in terms of Call of Duty. Obviously, outside of Call of Duty and other esports, different story. But there's not really much that you need to change up, to be honest, at this point in time, to make it better, I suppose.
No, I agree. I think the production was spot on. Like, as I said, all the graphics, like the entrances and everything, how to introduce the teams. I think it's going to be a brilliant year. And I think this is probably one of the best cards that I think we've seen for a while as well, arguably.
I'd argue otherwise, right? The game itself. So I said this from the very start. I'll be honest in saying I pretty much stopped playing Modern Warfare.
I haven't. I've played like 2 hours worth.
I'm not talking from a playing perspective.
But so the gameplay itself is fine, but the players have made the points. Multiple casters have made the points that there is clearly a disparity in its current form between Activision, Infinity Wards, and the CDL, and that's just so clear.
Yes, that is true.
It's straight up. It's not. I'm not going to sit here and talk shit to IW. They have their own market audience. At the end of the day, competitive Call of Duty is
obviously
5%
never
or less
been their
than.
Priority
well, it makes sense from a business perspective. It's 5% or less than its target audience. But at the end of the day, there clearly is a disparity going on right now between the pros and between IW and the CDL. Whether that's fixed, it's a different story. One thing I will say is they did a great job introducing those camos, even if it was the day before the event, because that on stream, having each team wearing their own camos, wearing their own outfits,
the operators,
perfect.
Yeah,
the operator skins, perfect. I really love that. That's probably one of my favorite things out of the entire event, to be honest.
Any other opinions? Because I've got a few things I want to transition into.
No, continue.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about would be the Codcaster. Now, obviously, the Codcaster that they had at the CDL event was much different to what we have here at home and what we're going to be operating on this weekend on the EEG broadcast, for example. So I wanted to get your guys' opinions on the Codcaster overall, because personally I thought it was a huge step in the right direction. Obviously there are some things which need to be amended, such as player numbers on the map is a major thing for me, and also a way of presenting the statistics rather than having the players' faces all the time. If there's a way we can do both, like for example just underneath where the player's face is, you can have a little stats bar with KDA basically just on there. I think that would be perfect. That's my suggestions at the very least. But what do we think of the Codcaster? And ultimately as well, what do we think of Call of Duty being streamed exclusively on YouTube Gaming?
Well, I mean, the Codcaster itself, I mean, day one, we had its big hiccups. Obviously, we spoke about like the free cam. I actually liked the implementation of that. We've obviously seen it with the Sky Cam over the course of the last few Call of Duty titles, and it works really quite well, giving you a different statistical standpoint, like from above, from different angles as well, so that you can see where certain players are sat and such. I think it's really good. The one thing I didn't like was the third person view. It kind of felt like a completely different game when we were trying to watch it.
I can't even watch, right?
It felt, it felt wrong. Really jarring.
So if we can just get rid of the third person, we can utilize the Sky Cam a little bit more. But other than that, the being able to find a balance between the statistics and what we see on screen, as well as being able to see the players' like profile pictures, I suppose, to know who we're talking about. It's a tough one to really kind of find the right balance for, because of how little screen space there actually is, and being able to implement that correctly will be quite a challenge. But I'm sure they'll take on as much information as possible over this last weekend, and hopefully for London, we've got something good to watch.
Might be all right.
Yeah. I think the Codcaster we've seen was...
Connor, I'm sorry to just cut you off. Can you turn your mic off a bit, or like make yourself louder, because you're a bit quiet?
Don't make him louder. Don't. He's fine.
Is he?
He's fine. He's perfectly fine at the moment.
Oh, just on stream it just sounds a bit quiet. Maybe it's just me. All right, carry on anyway. I'll just turn you up.
I will project. Look into the camera. As you said, I think for the Codcaster, what we've seen this weekend or weekend just gone, it was definitely a right direction for what we need. I think we've all struggled ourselves, just the stupid little things like the kill feed disappearing. The team list disappearing. Me and Brody had it, I think, in the LCQ so bad when the team list just went so many times in domination, search and destroy, and it's so hard to sort of look at KDs and try and call out who's doing bad, who's doing good, etc. And I think what you said, player numbers as well. One thing that helped me in Black Ops 4 massively when I first started out was having the fact that when you're looking at the minimap, you can see who's who with the player numbers. And now we don't have that. I think it's a lot harder to sort of see who is who. What I've been doing a lot lately when Brody was streaming and I was not on production, so I'd click up on my D-pad and it brings up the whole map and it brings up the player numbers there, but it doesn't do it on the minimap. So I've been doing that and bringing it straight down to see who's where, etc.
Yeah, I think that would be the only other thing. The statistics and the thingy, the player numbers on the minimap are the two things that I have a gripe with. I think having the players' faces implemented in is something that comes by proxy of having crossplay, because you can easily implement that through a PC, and I think most of the broadcasts are actually done off of a PC. if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they will be done off PC. Yeah. I mean, because the fact they've got that client where they can put the logos in on Switch, that's clearly PC.
I'd love that to be accessible to the general public as well, for us to cast, because I will commentate Call of Duty from the PC. I have Call of Duty on the PC. I do not have it on the PS4. It'll be from PC for me. So if I could have that same option, that would be great. My take on the third-person thing is that there is no FPS in which third-person works in at all. There are sky cams and like fixed camera positions in like choke points of the map, Counter-Strike, Overwatch, and all these other FPSs, and they work a lot better than the third-person stuff. I think that lesson has been learned by the CDL observers this weekend, and I think we're not going to see it again. And we're certainly not going to see it in London, I wouldn't imagine. And I think there's a lot that's been learned from this, which is going to be really, really good overall for the CDL. And I think YouTube, actually, surprisingly, was a really good platform for it. I'm not even joking.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we looked at the statistics. So here's the thing, right? So statistically speaking, there was a bit of a lie coming out, so I'll call it out straight up. So you saw
I might be misinformed then, if you're going to...
So Fwiz tweeted out that comparing the numbers from this year to what he called the start of last year, that there were higher peak viewership numbers. Now, that wasn't true. So... Basically, I think it was that he was comparing it to the first day of Pro League, and obviously this is the first day of the season. So comparing it to actually the first day of Las Vegas last year, we had a higher viewership last year, straight up. But that being said, YouTube is a great platform. I think there is a worry to an extent, obviously, that you don't have that reach of casual viewers coming in from Twitch. But the potential, I would say, is more on YouTube, as long as it's correctly advertised. So you've got this contract with YouTube Gaming, put it on the homepage of YouTube. Put it so you search Call of Duty and the Call of Duty League stream is the first thing that comes up. That is, to me, at least, basic shit that you can do if you're YouTube. And like that, immediately, it just explodes the viewership. You'll get at least like 10, 15,000 more viewers just from the static, like people just on the homepage. To me, I feel that is something that YouTube and Activision should be working on. If they're not, fair enough. You know, at the end of the day, I'm just an amateur caster. I'm just sitting here talking shit. But yeah, I just like for me, the potential on YouTube Gaming is more than on Twitch. I'll say that.
I would agree with that, simply because YouTube is a wider audience. That everyone uses YouTube, regardless of if you're a gamer or not. Everyone uses YouTube, right? So it's a matter of, it's pretty much inevitable that everyone's going to be on it. Everyone's going to be using it. Everyone's going to be doing that kind of thing with it. So if you have it on the homepage, there's how many people are subscribed to the Call of Duty channel? Probably hundreds of thousands, right? So obviously you're never going to get all those viewers in the same place at the same time. That's just not probable. But with all those people on there, you can at least put it on a homepage or a subscription list. And it was on a subscription list, and it appeared top of the subscription list because it's a live stream. However, if you put that on the YouTube landing page, you're going to have, like Brody says, an influx of 10, 15,000 more viewers. It's like if you have front page Twitch, you immediately get a huge bolster from that in terms of viewership. So if you really want to make your deal a really big success with YouTube, I think that's the way to go. Whether they'll do it or not is a very different question, but it's just a suggestion. We're not criticizing in any form there. We're just saying that would be ultimate in order to get the CDL up and above everything else, really.
I do think, look, I'm not going to sit here and praise Activision and the CDL for all the good that they've done. Like, in line with the announcements problem, the fact that they didn't announce until the day before that it would just be on YouTube.
I think it was actually the day of, the morning of.
It was bad. Like, I'll be frank, I love what the CDL have done. The launch weekend was pretty much perfect from a production perspective, but you need to be announcing earlier. And it does. I mean, like I think what Karazi just said in the chat, right? The fact that they didn't announce it until like an hour or hours before the event started, you lose streaming numbers. You know, it's not settled in. Oh, hey guys, we're on YouTube. People are trying to find the event on Twitch. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I can't speak for people, but people may be looking, potential viewers may be thinking, oh, it's not starting because it's not on Twitch. You do lose viewership, and that's just the way it is. So if I was to level one criticism here, it's just the fact that they should have announced it earlier, because that's a good thing as well. It's good publicity. I mean, that I'm pretty sure that ended up on Twitter Moments at one point, right?
It did.
That Overwatch and Call of Duty had officially been signed to YouTube.
Yes.
like shit like that. It brings casual viewers to you and it benefits you. There's no downside to announcing it a little bit earlier. I mean, unless the deal was like fucking done.
It was
last minute. Yeah.
It was done at last minute.
Now, I mean, I will say I do know a lot of it was done last minute.
Having said that, though, with the deal being done last minute, quote end quote, Richard Lewis did report on the Activision Blizzard going to YouTube deal for Overwatch, Hearthstone, and Call of Duty about 2 weeks before the event. So hardcore esports fans would have been aware of the fact that this was a possibility, but then we would never have had it confirmed until the day. Now, understandably, that's last minute. It is a little bit questionable in terms of how much pull does the CDL have towards broadcast rights. At that point, I think it's fine. YouTube's probably the second best place for it outside of Twitch. I think if they go the way of Facebook, ESL have already made that mistake for everybody, so I don't think we'll be going back there again. Plus, Facebook don't seem to be even bothered about giving the right equipment to anyone in the Facebook gaming realm or division of their company. It just seems to be a really half-assed approach to making a live streaming platform. I think YouTube obviously have the right personnel to do it, and I think at the moment they're way more hands-on than Twitch currently are with regards to streaming, at least for big platform events like YouTube, like the CDL, for example. And I think in the future we might see even more esports events move over there, considering as pay-per-view is probably going to be very likely with the esports money pit coming in soon. So, like, there's going to be a big problem with money in esports shortly, and I think YouTube could actually transition into being a really good place for it, considering it's a platform for monetization.
I will say one thing from the chat. Sean just pointed it out. Despite all the criticisms, despite the fact that, again, and this is factual, they should have put it out earlier. The fact that we did get 100k viewers on peak.
That was insane.
On a new platform and very little marketing. It is good. But to me, it more just disappoints me that we didn't get that marketing push, that we didn't get that announcement a little bit earlier. Because if we had, then we might be seeing sort of record numbers for Call of Duty. And that's the sad thing more than anything for me. But like we said, beyond that, pretty good turnout for Call of Duty in the first weekend from a production perspective. The pro segment.
Yeah. Chris, did you have something to say on that? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Chris.
So I kind of agree that the 100k, views was fantastic at its peak. But if you look at it, it was 100k for one game, which was arguably the biggest game of that weekend, which is obviously new Optic versus old Optic, which is obviously going to draw in quite a lot of viewership. If you look at the actual stats of the rest of them, they're not that high in comparison. And really, it's only at peak viewing times, like for a North American. Whereas over here, obviously, it didn't start until 10:30 on Friday. And then it was like 7:30 on the Saturday and on the Sunday. So, yeah, fantastic that, with that very little marketing, it did reach 100k. But it was, it was for Optic, basically, and not for the rest of it. If it had, over the course of it, if it had maintained that sort of viewing figure, or even like a steady viewing figure, instead of obviously the peaks and troughs as it always does, fantastic. But just to base it off of one game, ridiculous.
That's why it is a peak, though. Admittedly, I'd like it a lot more if we could consistently have 100k. But I do think we should be celebrating it regardless, because we've been struggling for many years now to make 100k on Twitch repeatedly. I remember, for example, in Infinite Warfare, we got like 100k at the first event, and then we were barely scraping 50 for the next 4 or 5 events of the year. So I'm pretty happy that we can at least peak at 100k. There's obviously the relevant interest in the CDL, and I think the production of the pro side of it has been a pretty good bolster into retaining viewership for that. So I reckon viewer retention for the upcoming events, especially London and beyond, is going to be pretty decent. I'm not really going to say that it's going to be... I don't reckon London will be as highly viewed as Minnesota, just simply because of the time zone difference, and it's the second event. People who watched the first one may have tuned in for that and may not give a shit as much about this one.
Yeah,
you never know, but it has to remain to be seen. I think on that standpoint, I like YouTube as a streaming platform simply because you can scrub back really easily, and that's literally like one of the only reasons why I really like it.
It's the downside to it. I'd say it's actually kind of funny because there's a small downside to it in that you can't clip. There's a small upside to it. In that you can go back and the VODs are already ready there. So like it's very much easier to access VODs of live matches, which is what the CDL have done. You can access the full matches individually, and that's brilliant from them to be able to do that. And I think the individual views on those
pretty good.
Videos are pretty good. And I think that's what Fwiz tweeted. Fwiz tweeted about the fact that VODs are actually doing really well. So I feel like now that maybe for the second event, maybe for London, people will know that it's going to be on YouTube. Things will be looking a lot different in terms of viewership because obviously people won't have to watch it on VODs. I think that would probably do it for the pro bit.
Well, for the presentation, we haven't talked about the pro matches.
Do you want to talk about the pro matches first?
Yeah, let's roll those pro matches.
Everything with challenges.
Everything with challenges is going to be a very large topic. So
yeah, pro section, pro Call of Duty, guys.
It's pretty
what
good.
A weekend.
It was actually pretty good.
Professional Call of Duty. The matches were brilliant.
I think the one thing we can safely say is that Atlanta are, like, in terms of average height, really shit. But in terms of average talent, fuck me, they are insane.
I was worried going into this year. I thought that Atlanta were really going to suffer from a lack of
like leadership.
Yeah, like I genuinely thought, all right, look, this Atlanta squad in pure talent, pure skill, they're unmatched, but they just don't quite have the leadership. But beating Dallas Empire 3-0 and beating the New York Subliners 3-1, not bad at all. Mm-hmm. I will say it is important to note that from those matches in particular, Dallas seemed to struggle and the Subliners didn't have the best weekend either. So it's kind of one of those things where, look, Atlanta looked great, but you kind of have to consider that maybe the teams they were facing were also not having the best weekend.
I want to quickly interject there, actually. Like, Atlanta, I don't think there's a lot to say besides they look pretty fucking dominant, and they played teams that didn't really come to play. I think the bigger talking points in the weekend, if we transition off Atlanta into Dallas, are really, really quite scary. Dallas didn't look awake all weekend. They weren't there. Like, this team that we've been seeing online, just ripping through everybody.
Yeah.
Slide cancelling their way through everybody.
Well, yeah.
It's just they've been existent. I think Shotzi had a .69 the entire weekend.
And then got a burger card from Lineman.
Yeah.
Not I mean, it wasn't the lowest card as well that he put out either.
It was 8s, right? 8s at the lowest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw Hectic quoted that saying, "How is this guy still a pro player?"
Yeah, it's funny, but like on the Dallas Empire point, right? I mean, this is the thing; they kind of really suffered from being on land. Not gonna fucking lie, like they clearly had done much better on land.
Illy had no clue.
Than they were on LAN, and obviously, as we said, the massive change update, the slide cancelling going away last minute before the event, it just affected them. You could clearly see. That being said, you have to consider as well, it would have been the same for the Atlanta FaZe. Like Atlanta FaZe were one of the two teams that was marketed as
last patch.
Nope, I don't think they did. But I mean, maybe they did. I could be wrong. But the slide cancelling really would have affected Atlanta FaZe in much in the same way, because they were one of the two teams that were being touted as sort of the slide cancelling teams, as it were, alongside the Dallas Empire. So you can't use that as an excuse if you're Dallas Empire. You can't, because Atlanta FaZe adapted.
No one even, just literally, like, no one from Dallas turned up. Not even Illy, who's been touted as like the new simp. Not even there. Non existent. Prim was the best player on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Mind blown.
Yeah. It's crazy. But Crim's good.
Hey?
He was moaning all weekend.
Crim, yeah. But he's always
For what
moaning,
reason?
isn't he?
What was his moaning?
Slide cancel.
Slide cancel's being removed and all that shit. Yeah. It's like, obviously it's a crutch for Dallas, but you really should be able to adapt. If Atlanta can, then you definitely can. You've got way more experience on your team. You've had experience with this kind of shit happening before. Mm-hmm. What's the problem?
But Dallas Empire are a very tilt-easy team anyway. You've got Clayster and Crimsticks on the same roster. Like, that's never... The composure there is not going to be good. It all goes to shit.
Dude, imagine complexity back in the day with Aches as well.
Well, like, not to say that they're not experienced, but, like, you know Clayster and Crimsticks. They're probably the moaniest personalities outside Aches in the scene. Like, if something goes wrong, they're going to be pissed about it.
Yeah.
So... yeah, that's just the way it is. But Dallas Empire, easily the biggest disappointment this weekend.
Oh, massive.
Coming in as the number one in everyone's power rankings and ending it and like the joint 9th or 10th. Pretty stupid.
1 and 6 map count?
Sorry, they went 11th. Yeah, they were 11th in the
1 and 6 map count.
Pretty disappointing, the Dallas Empire. But, you know, on the flip side of that, biggest shock for me, best performers, Paris Legion.
Yeah.
Paris fucking Legion. Jesus Christ.
Aussie.
Everyone's power rankings, the French Aussies, as we'll call them. And they ended up beating, I mean, Optic, their match versus Optic went about as I expected. It was, well, you know, they were the worst teams in the power rankings at the time. So going game 5 was pretty much going to happen. But they're 3-0 over London. They won a bit more, just straight up.
I mean, what was really impressive about that was that at one point it was 4-0 in the Search and Destroy to London, and then they mounted the biggest comeback, 6 on the trot to win 6-4. It was just unreal. I was watching it live and I was thinking, what the bloody hell is going on? Like, this shouldn't happen. Especially after Wuskins. Yeah, Wuskins was playing incredible.
And it's so wow.
It's just to have to throw that all away. Like, I can imagine that team being tilted off the face of the earth. No wonder they lost the domination in the end.
I mean, it's the same as Dallas as well. They expected higher things. Everybody expected higher things, and they must have got tilted just off that match. I mean, if you look at that first match, they had the grudge match against Scump, and obviously 4 more against Crimsix. That must have tilted Crim going into the next.
Oh, with Dallas,
100%.
sorry,
yeah, 100%. Because even after, like, he tweeted, I think he tweeted something like, "Wow, not got a lot to say. They were better GGs" or something. But then even before,
it's pretty standard tweet, to be fair.
Well, yeah, but
head's gone though. He's rent free as Scump.
Exactly, that's what I was about to bring up. And even before their matchup, Scump was saying, obviously, on the analyst desk, you need to take that poster down, buddy, because we're living in you rent free, and then you got to go play them. It's not a good feeling.
Wasn't that after that?
It was after.
Oh, I thought it was before. After then.
Yeah.
And then
the
only thing I weren't active all weekend on this. I'm just. And then the only thing that won was S&D, not even a single respawn. So
pretty good performance out of Chicago. I think they were alongside the Atlanta FaZe, the 2 teams that I would say we kind of expected them to perform very well, win both of those matches, and they did. Or actually, I say expected them to win both of those matches because Chicago playing Dallas was
I honestly thought that would be a Dallas
70-30.
win.
I thought Dallas were going to win it. So Chicago coming out on top, I think. I mean, their match against Optic Gaming was not going to to go any other way, to be honest.
No, never.
So
actually, there is a good point. Yeah, there is a good point from the Spaceman. When we were talking about tilters, we had Slasher. Like, fuck me. I bet he was done. Absolutely off his head tilted after that match.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know what you can expect. If Optic have been I know, obviously, we have a team that's gone against that with Paris Legion, but if Optic have been touted as a team that haven't done well in scrims at all, they've been complete dog shit. I don't know what they expected going into this match versus one of the teams that has been top 3 in scrims. I know scrims are scrims, but, at the end of the day, what are you expecting? You're going against a team that's way more prepared than you. There is something so wrong with Optic Gaming Los Angeles. Similarly, something so wrong with Seattle Surge. I sort of looked at it going into this, and I thought Seattle Surge were going to be a top 4 team, and I still think they will be by the end of the season, maybe with a change or 2. But you look at the names. Yeah. Well, you look at the names on the Seattle Surge, and the only thing you can really say is that there's just something not quite clicking with the names, the team as a whole.
Yeah, the Surge, it's odd because obviously they've got Karma, and you'd think, well, put Slacked and co. You're already you got a lot of playmakers, but not a lot of Slayers, and that's the issue I see with the Seattle Surge. Maybe playmaking at some point can work out. I think they're probably a role swap or one player away from being a top 4 team. I don't think they're far off. I think with the pieces that they've got already, they're pretty close. But they're not there. They're not going to be there for a while. I think they need to really knuckle down and work on that one. I almost feel the same can be said for Toronto. I think they're a pretty mid-pack team, just as much as we expected them to be. I think there are a really good few shining lights on the roster, and there's also a good few things holding them back. Really holding them back. Like Classic, for example, pretty poor weekend from him, all things considered. Cammy looks good. There's obviously a lot of positives on the roster for that, and obviously you have a plethora of reserves for Toronto Ultra, so again, that team could just be one roster change away from becoming a top 4 team. I think on that point, though, with the Seattle Surge and co, I think, again, it's opening weekend, so we can't take a lot from it. Scrims are obviously a little bit of a weird metric. It's a LAN environment, a new LAN environment, bearing in mind as well, where you play less games, you don't have that tournament vibe to keep yourself warmed up. Karma, for example, is definitely a Sunday player, definitely a tournament player, and I don't think you'll really see the best out of him until you get him in a tournament format.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, there wasn't really much on the line for this launch weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
It was early points, basically. Yeah. You're just grabbing points early on in the season that can help. One thing I do want to discuss, actually, with the pros is something that Aches brought up after the event. So Aches obviously brought up the fact that you're not going to see, once in this season, the Chicago Huntsmen play the Atlanta FaZe. What do we think of that? Do we think there's any substance behind that? I think it might be random. It might be random. I'm not entirely sure on exactly what
that's really cutting us, because that is the one match that I really want to see.
Yeah, well, we're not going to see it until playoffs. And do you guys think this is a manufactured storyline by the CDL?
No,
that's speculation, man.
I mean, no, I'm not saying this. This is Aches'.
Yeah, that's what I say. Aches definitely made it out to be like that. Would it make sense for them to do that? Yes. Did they? I'm not sure. We're never ever gonna know. That's the thing. So you can back and forth this as much as we want, but we will never ever find out.
Yeah, I mean, like because it's not like the CDL are going to come out and say, well, we're not going to fucking put the Atlanta FaZe versus the Chicago Huntsmen, because as soon as they play, then all the hype for that matchup at playoffs will be dead. I will say as well, if it is the case that Activision are manufacturing this matchup to be something we see in playoffs, I think they're heavily overestimating, or underestimating, I should say, the amount that can change in a very little time in the Call of Duty season. Like, just one wrong patch can send Chicago Huntsmen to the bottom of the league table.
Or Atlanta.
Like, you have to, or Atlanta. It's very easy for that to happen. You look at last season. Simp did not start out the season like as anywhere near as he
well,
as
didn't
good
start out
as the end of the season.
So,
he was good. He was good. Well, he was. He was playing the challenge. What is now challengers, the open bracket.
One event.
He was good. He was good, but he became a lot better because of the Sorg patch. Like, things can change so quickly. United would not have won champs if it wasn't for the Sorg patch.
No, if the pace of Modern Warfare all of a sudden gets slowed down for any reason, like the MP5 gets nerfed or something, or like anything,
it has been nerfed.
Like again, I mean, like if the game
it was nerfed about an hour ago.
Oh really? Shit.
Yeah, MP5 and
it
and
fucking
M4.
needed it. Let's be clear.
On LAN, that thing is better than the M4. I will not hear any sub players telling me the M4 is better on LAN.
They aren't in the same group, randoms. I believe that to be the case. Yeah. So they could theoretically play, because obviously they have to play in the bracket. But yeah. So I mean, I don't even know if they are going to be at the same event at different points. They could very well be. But yeah.
I don't know. Either which way, the one thing that I'll say on that one is, like, for example, if the pace of the game changes, Atlanta FaZe are an extremely fast and aggressive team. If all of a sudden we go to a slow meta, 100% Dallas will be back as one of like the top two teams.
Guys, apologies. I'm gonna have to turn my camera off to be a pain in the ass because I've got people looking at the boiler. So I'll just. Sorry, George. Sorry, George. You have to do some camera work. Sorry, guys, to the chat. I will still talk.
Hold on. I can just cover your face on stream, I think.
Cover my face. Apologies.
Oh,
I just put blue tack over the camera.
Hold on, let me get a picture of.
I'm sorry for interrupting, guys.
Let me get
just cover the camera.
Wait. Let me get a picture of Sue Perkins.
Okay, yeah.
There we go.
Why is it always that?
Why is it always Sue?
Why is it always Sue?
Because you are Sue.
You are. Not why is it always? Why you are one.
How's your head, Connor? Is it fixed yet? Fucking absolutely.
Like the cut.
Harry Potter, yeah.
Listen, this cut ain't ever gonna go. I don't want to get a close up on cam, but like.
Yeah, mate. I mean, you're fucked now. That's your face. It's your casting career down the drain because you fucking fucked up at work, didn't you? While George is trying to fix this, we'll talk real quick because there
you go. Sue Perkins is on the screen now. You're fine.
There we go. Perfectly. There we go. Thank you. So I can now turn my camera off. So yeah, pro events. Wait, hang on, shit. Is that going to affect it?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Wait, hang on. You didn't even need to do that. You could have just put it on.
Nah, it's good.
Hi. Right. So yeah. So pro. Any other pro teams that we really need to talk about before we move into challenges?
I just want to know what you think of Toronto. Do they need to bring anyone from their massive sub bench?
This is actually a massive talking point because Toronto, for me, before the season, I looked at their lineup and I thought, fucking hell, this team is going to change a lot.
It will.
In the season.
I still think it's going to change. I think Classic needs to go.
I'm highly impressed with the start. Yes, they went 1-1. But they beat the Seattle Surge in a very close matchup. They did lose to the Rocker. He were pretty good. I'd be happy if I was the Toronto Ultra walking away from week 1.
Yeah, I'd be pretty happy with it. I still think there's when you come up again, if you want to really be a big team who's going to take scalps and like potentially win, you need a change. I'm sorry, I don't think you're ever going to get it. I don't think you're going to win. There's too much fierce competition right now, providing there's a huge meta change or something. Like with the game as fast as it is currently, you see the success of Atlanta. I don't see any reason why you've got perfectly adequate, really quick SMG players, cough Toby Kleenex, on the bench that you're not putting on your starting roster. Admittedly, an unproven quantity in this game. Haven't really seen anything from him, but by all means, there's a great argument to be made for that. But I think for a starting weekend, there's nothing really to be too ashamed of. I think they've got a lot of kinks to iron out, but I think they're pretty good in that regard. I think the same can be said about the Rocker as well. I don't think there was anything too bad about them. Nothing really critical that needs to be changed immediately, but there are a few things that they could probably do to become a better team. Now, there is one team, however, that I do want to get your opinions on, just because it's a pretty big talking point. LA Gorillas. What are we thinking? The LA Gorillas, mate. the Aces team. And
I mean, this is the team that went 1-1. Like again, this is one of those teams that's not all that bad.
Honestly, going into this weekend, I thought they'd be bottom of the pack.
Yeah, I mean, they're another team that was doing pretty shit in scrims, reportedly so. Anyway, they weren't having the best preseason. Again, preseason for what we can take it as such. And they came into this event. They proved themselves in that 3-2 victory over the Florida Mutineers. That being said, they lost to, again, the Rocker, who had a good weekend. Like, you can only take so much from it. It is important to note, I think, in general, that every analysis of every team in this sort of little segment about the pros, you can only take so much away from it because we've seen them in 2 matches each.
It's
like there's so much variation.
Is the format, by the way, is the format for London a tournament or is it still home?
It is a tournament. Two groups of 4.
Yeah. Okay, that's much better. I think we're going to get a lot more of a really good sample size from that as soon as we get to London, and the events that are like obviously smaller events that have teams, that are like less teams but bigger tournament structure. I think we're going to have a way better time with regarding and like critically evaluating some of these teams. I think London are really going to want to have to bring the heat for the London event, considering as they were thoroughly underwhelming versus Paris, which is pretty much the only team that anyone in the EU really cares about, these 2 teams, right? Yeah. And they looked massively underwhelming versus Paris, like getting 3-0'd. Like, come on, obviously Paris are a huge shock factor. Maybe you didn't think you had to do as much work to play them, but even still, you guys are being clapped about, and you guys are the best that we have to offer as a scene.
I wouldn't say they were underwhelming though.
I thought they were thoroughly underwhelming versus Paris. I thought versus New York they looked great, really, really hot.
Yeah, versus New York they looked incredible, but
it was like 2 different teams. I thought it was day and night.
Versus Paris, like they obviously lost 3-0, but that result doesn't really like show like how well Paris played. Yes, they played really well, but there were times when London played exceptionally well. I mean, they went 4-0 up in that search and destroy. They pulled off some incredible plays throughout the entirety of that series, but it just wasn't enough at the end of the day because Kismet had probably one of the best series of the entire weekend. It was phenomenal, and he was just popping off. So, yeah, I mean, it was underwhelming, but I wouldn't say it was overly underwhelming.
I think the team needs to. I think this is going to be always a problem for UK teams, at least, or EU teams, is that we've always had a bit of a problem with consistency. We had Splice win one NA event, and it's never been done since. So, like, we just need a little bit of consistency to come with it. And I think London can find that the more they continue. I think they're going to be fine. When they get back to, obviously, the Copper Box, they're going to have Neil Guest as their official mascot. So, no problems for Neil. He'll be all over it like a rash. Jesus, and probably on the stage shouting with his cane. It will be all right.
With his cane?
Neil is the mascot of London, mate. He'll be all right. All over it.
And Neil, we trust.
Wonderful.
We don't have a choice.
Super stuff. Let's move on, shall we? Let's talk about CDC.
Yes, let's do that. I'm sure that Mr. Controversial in the corner there is going to have his mic unmuted shortly when we start talking about the CDC. I do want to say, overall, the things that were put out about it being in a parking lot for the first, 2 days of the event, what the fuck are you talking about, man? You got there on the Thursday. It's an event being set up. It doesn't matter where the location is. It's going to look way better by the time you're actually playing there on the Friday. They're still doing setup work. Fucking morons complaining about it. It's so entitled. Just because it's not in the same venue doesn't mean that it's not going to be equally as adequate. By the looks of things, no one else complained about that through the entire weekend. It was just a bit of a meme to start things off when everything else was being shit and Adam Fitch was posting articles about why the CDL isn't ready. Everyone was just riding the kill the CDL hype train before it even starts. And to be honest, I don't see a problem. The parking garage or garage or lot or whatever fuck it was, in the end, didn't seem like a particularly bad venue. From the pictures and periscopes and stuff that I was watching, it didn't even seem that bad.
Agreed. I think everyone's just quick to jump on the train because that video literally blew up, and technically people are probably thinking he's in the limelight because he's uploaded that, so we can just have our 2 piece and get away with it. You know what I mean? But people will remember, and that is literally the thing. But I think to meme it and to take the piss out of it, it's stupid because without them, you're not there. You're gonna be back in your bedroom playing PPs.
I mean, come on, some of these players have played EGL Sheffield where you're playing in a fucking shed.
You know what I mean? I think it's just basic respect at the end of the day, to be honest. I think it is because you need to understand they've put the event on. Do you know what I mean? They've set everything up for you. They've done fair enough wherever it is, but regardless, they've set the PS4s up, monitors, they gave you a place, a format. money. Like,
lots of
come
money.
on. That's what I mean. Like, come on. And you want to say, oh, it's in a garage. Will any EU AMs make it?
Yes, for sure. We've already seen it this weekend. We're getting
Yeah.
onto that. I think overall the bracket. Oh yeah, no water. That was actually bullshit. But we had the same thing at Malta. We had to pay for water, but didn't have to pay for Red Bull. Mate, get me out.
Wow, that was for us.
Yeah, and players. And players.
I think players paid for it.
Oh, fucking get me out, mate. Water is not free, apparently. Down.
I think players paid for it at the desk. We just got it free for the casting reasons.
Yeah. Get me out anyway. Like the fact that water isn't free is mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Or just like you've got 190 teams worth of people there, and you've got no water refilling stations. Like, come on, get me out.
100%.
Like, admittedly, that is just a logistical error. That'll something be ironed out for sure. I don't see too many problems with that. It's an AM event. These kind of things happen all the time. I mean, for example, at bloody CDL Birmingham, I'm pretty sure there wasn't places to fill up water everywhere. I mean, obviously it's the NEC, so there's going to be places to do it, but it's not all over the place. Not really in adequate proximity to where the event was being held. So, and I mean, bloody look at London, for example. You buy a bottle of water, it's £6. So.
Yeah, it was a bit rough. I mean, that was probably one of the shocking things that we heard over the course of the weekend. In all honesty, the rest of it was perfectly fine to me. I mean, as you said, we've casted in worse places. I mean, you casted in a bloody tent in probably the windiest.
It was going to fall down, yeah.
Yeah.
Gale force winds.
I've casted in the Norbreck Hotel in Blackpool, which is obviously the worst place in the entire world.
Did you have your tetanus shot before you went?
I didn't, unfortunately, which is probably why I'm dying now.
Oh, right, yeah.
Just catching up after all that time, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, slow metabolism and whatnot. It's just horrible.
Look, it's time.
But yeah, I mean, the whole water situation was kind of, it took me by surprise because, with a venue such as this, you'd expect there to be easily accessible water at least, but not be able to have to pay over the top for it. I think somebody tweeted out they had to pay like $30 for 10 bottles of water, which isn't great. Like, it's not. And the fact that they turned apparently the cold water off, so that it was only hot water coming through the taps was a bit.
Surely that's counterintuitive. Like, isn't that going to take more money to heat water?
Probably, but they'll probably make that back up with how much they charge for the water. See, so bang business. But the rest of it was actually really, really good. The one thing that really, really griped me was the fact that the CDC wasn't streamed until the grand final, and when it was only one of 2 best of 5s that was streamed because they got rid of the second to put on the pro games.
I was fucking fuming.
No,
okay, like I can anticipate the fact there's going to be no CDC broadcast. That's okay. Like, it's obviously not optimal.
It's not okay.
It's not optimal, but like all 4 of us would do it. We really would we would charge way less.
Where are we at the conversation?
Sorry, we're on about CDC no broadcast.
Oh, CDC. Oh, wait, how much? Sorry, I've just had to deal with the boiler.
So we were talking about the parking.
Can I rip into them yet?
We were talking about the parking lot, and we were talking about the water.
Right. Let's just speak. Sorry, just to back it up, because if you guys have already talked about the parking lot, let's just back it up for a second. The parking lot probably the only downside to it was there's very little seating for the challengers. From what I heard from multiple pros and multiple different people, it wasn't actually as bad as people were making it out.
Yeah, this is what I said. Yeah. They got there and complained about it on the day before it was supposed to be ready. So obviously it's going to change. Oh bloody hell! Get rid of Sue Perkins.
Sorry. But yeah. So
oh wait, no, she's still here.
So just add that in as a sort of a posthumous comment in regards to the parking lot. In regards to the Challenger stream, what the fuck? Like, Jesus, I'm sorry, but like, I'm not going to sit here and shred into fucking Activision, but I really cannot stress from the perspective of somebody who understands the amateur scene and just like the effect of not having an amateur stream. Like what that will have on the Call of Duty stream, like the Call of Duty scene. Just why would you not do it? It doesn't make any sense. There are casters who were there.
I don't even think it is.
It was a last-minute decision not to do it. I know that, and like it's so silly, to be honest. Like it just doesn't make sense. I don't like this is what I tweeted out, right?
Go on.
If you do not have a Challenger stream, The organizations that fund teams to an event have no reason to fund teams
literally
to said
zero
event.
ROI.
They are not getting any stream exposure. And those players and teams will not make it to the amateur events. When that happens, players do not get to the events. When those players don't get to the events don't happen, and you lose your amateur scene. When you lose the amateur scene, you lose your viewership because your amateur players are your viewers. That is base 101. Like, it isn't, I'm sorry, it just is not hard to have a challenger stream. I get it. Yes, it's fucking annoying for Activision to have to fund a stream where people don't support it. That's on us. For everyone who doesn't fucking support challengers, it's on you, right? Like, all right, the challenger stream would max get like 2,000 viewers. But
probably more
that's
than
still
that.
worth it.
Way more than that. I reckon I get more than that.
I don't think so.
I mean, if we can nearly pull 2,000 viewers at Malta, then there's no reason why a challenger stream.
Yeah, but you didn't have anything else going on at the same time.
Whilst that's true, like, that's teams that literally zero people give a fuck about at Malta there.
No,
like, besides Blackclaw and FTW, that's it.
I would say based on previous viewership numbers,
literally SNG's stream, which was a fucking last minute bot stream with no production value, got 2K on YouTube.
Yeah,
but that was a final.
That was a final,
even still.
Yeah. Like,
but why isn't that being streamed?
Well, yeah, I mean that's a different point entirely. But like the point here being that, and just again in response to randoms in the chat, right? EU finals, 2K finals reach up to 1K. Yeah, but that's because nothing else is on. Like, you have to consider, if you have the pro stream, which will get about 70,000 to 100,000 views, running alongside a challenger stream, the challenger stream will not get any more than about 5K viewership. That's the fact of it. That is therefore, it makes it a lot more understandable why the Rocker and why Activision wouldn't want to put together a challenger stream. That being said, the downsides to not having a challenger stream outweigh
huge implications.
The upside by a massive amount.
Oh, the scales are so tilted.
It's so worth the investment long term. And if they don't, and the backlash that they got from players as well, like Twitter was not fucking happy.
No, and I just want to bring up a point here. Actually, I'll just go 2 points that I've got quickly, just while I interject. There is a reason why on a Twitter account, CDC update by one of my best friends, Alicia, was opened up on Friday, and it had 3.9k followers or something crazy by Sunday. That is how many people want updates. That's just updates on the fucking stream. Not even like people watching. That's just updates. That's how many people want to know about it. Like, it's absolutely mental. 3 days and you've nearly gained 4k followers just from doing updates on live matches that are having to be spoon-fed to you by people at the event. There is clearly a market for it. People want to be updated on what's going on with their friends. People want to be updated on it.
I just don't understand.
The second point, which me and Connor can both attest to, is if there is an organisation going to an event. Now, you obviously touched over this already. You have jerseys for that event. You have the team for that event. Now, if you're sending a team with jerseys, you want them to be on camera at least a little bit. So you have that. When you sell to sponsors, you are selling jersey space. So I am selling this part of my jersey here for a certain amount of money for Red Bull or X Gamer or fucking whoever to sponsor me. Now, I don't get on stream, and only the people at the venue can see that I'm sponsored by them. Who the fuck is going to want to go and ask about that? Who the fuck cares that I'm sponsored by X Gamer at that point? Like, for organisations,
aren't going to get you. They're not going to sponsor you anyway because you're not getting any airtime.
So the thing is, the sponsors aren't going to fund the orgs. Therefore, the orgs aren't going to have the money. Therefore, the orgs aren't going to go to the event. And the same process is going to happen exactly what Brody said. And therefore, all these esports orgs that are currently investing so much of their time into the CDL or at least the CDC are all of a sudden going to go and just invest into other esports with a better market.
What's going to happen is you're going to end up, the only way the pros are going to get to the events are via the very few orgs that still continue to support the open Call of Duty scene, and via players like Scraps and Wuskins that are nice enough to
fund,
shell out their own money to players to get to the event, like they did for Looty this event. Just like shit like that.
It's mind blowing. It's just gonna eventually, whilst it's not a problem now, eventually over the course of time, the bottom line for these organisations is going to drop considerably, and they're going to be seeing their digits for their bank accounts and stuff in the red, and then they're going to be like, well, what the fuck do? Well, we can't send this team to that event, and therefore this team can't compete at this event. Not only are you then jeopardising the organisations who are supporting your scene, you're jeopardising the players who are then part of those organisations who want to become pros. I mean, for example, if we had this same format last year, there's absolutely nothing to say that Team Singularity or Kleenex would be on the Toronto Ultra right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's maybe worth it, maybe just on the name brand alone, on the off chance that the CDL do string the finals for those teams like Singularity, like War, like that maybe get to the finals based on their performance. Yeah, but for those teams below that, like teams like Tal, even who currently have one of the fucking best teams in challenges, they got top 4 this event. It's not worth it. It isn't. Yeah, and like you could ask them and they will tell you, oh, they didn't get top 4, sorry. But the point is here that teams like that, like fucking Renegades, for God's sake, they sponsored the best teams in Australia. I literally thought, knowing before the event that Renegades, before the event that there wasn't going to be a Challenger stream. And seeing that Renegades announcement, it made my heart sink, because a big organization like Renegades has invested back into the scene, having the best Australian team, and they get top 6, but none of it is
so streamed. Upsetting. And the same thing applies to Renegades as well. They've always been invested in Australian esports, or at least Oceanic esports. From CSGO, for example, they've always had an Oceanic team for as long as I can remember, really. And they are once again putting it into the Oceanic region, giving them a platform, getting them to events that they wouldn't normally be able to get to. And they... the same has been said before. I mean, Sean's in chat. I'm sure that Sean would probably do the CDC for a reduced day rate. Like, we would do this shit just out of the love of our shit for the amateur scene.
I think it is I would at least. I think it is important to note as well, though, that for us as casters, while we would do it for free, you kind of have to be
production
careful.
Teams,
well, you have to kind of be careful not fucking over other casters that
exactly
like Tan and Bryce and deserve pay.
I think by the
fucking way.
By all means, there are so many people out there who deserve to do these streams. For example, I think all of us would be perfect candidates to do them. Obviously, we know more about the amateur scene in Europe than anybody else. I mean, I'm sure that Shift and Sean know more about the amateur scene in NA than anybody else. I'm sure that there's even like Ton and Bryce know more about a lot of the top precedents in the European amateur scene than even we do. They're way better connected. And the fact that some of these people are being snubbed for even having the stream on is outrageous. So I really hope that later on in the season, the different Homestead events can come to their senses and realise that this is actually a really big market they could be tapping into, and really keep helping the ecosystem of Call of Duty to continue to grow to the extent where we will have team passes selling out for 190 tickets really, really quickly, rather than over the course of a few days or weeks, like instantly gone, just like the London ones were, but that's only 32 teams. Like, there is obviously a huge demographic for this. There's obviously a huge thing for this. Just please, just give us the meat on the bones that we want to chew on.
Mm-hmm. See, well, to back up your point there is, if Activision don't want to do or like have really much to do with the amateur scene, right? Which they're kind of
understandable. That's fine.
Yeah, they're showing right now. They don't want it streamed. They don't really want it to advertise. But they want
people not the money. It's not the money maker, admittedly.
No. But if they don't want that to happen, then why are they then restricting other organizations from running their own open events? You know, why not go back to the days where we had so many amateur open events just throughout the year, just willy-nilly because we could, and then
EGL, the AM2 Pros,
well, it is important to note we do have those. It is important to note it's just the big ones that don't get the chance to at the moment. So we are slowly seeing more organizations in America and now in Europe creeping in, bringing more LANs and local events. Mm-hmm. You know, you've got now European events. We know that EEG have announced, now they've just announced Malta 4.0 while we're here on stream.
Yeah. Have they actually just done that? I'm surprised I haven't been tagged in that tweet.
We don't know the dates yet. We don't know the dates yet, but
I believe
it is happening. We can't say. Shut the fuck up. Right?
Fuck you. Fuck Malta.
Val, they've confirmed LAN for the end of the season. Whether or not that'll happen, and
it will.
Who knows? And then, of course, we do have one other event organizer in Europe, which we can't talk about just yet, that supposedly is planning a LAN. So there are LANs in Europe. The only thing is, I would like challengers to be sort of the main amateur. I mean, like CDC Activision have challengers in their hands. Like they could easily mold it into one of the best amateur circuits in esports. And at the moment, they're just sort of fiddling with the balls of it, to be honest. Like, I don't really know no other best way to put it.
It is very odd. It's very peculiar. But I think we've talked enough at length now about our gripes with the CDC. I think the main thing for me, which really did tick me over the edge this weekend, I was fine with it being off stream in the end.
I know what you're going to say.
But it is when they fucking shuffle SNG and Hybrid off the main stage.
What? It doesn't make sense. Don't fucking schedule it if you're not going to have the fucking time to have both best of fives.
I don't think he scheduled it. I think it was put in because
it was just now. Like, there's community backlash. No CDC. Get it in.
I'll be happy to sort of backtrack on that and say if they added it in like last minute, fair play to them, because I thought it was always scheduled as on the early Sunday.
Yes, I'll do the same. I'll 100% say the same on that one.
To the CDL for actually putting it on Friday morning. That being said, if you're gonna do it, which we are grateful for, please just like that second series needs to be there. I understand that you have a tight schedule and production is it was your first event for production, went great everywhere else, but
everything was great
in itself is just, it's not okay. It just isn't okay. I mean, like, you can't. I don't know, man. They even had the players come in really late the night before. I think it was Hybrid War and SNG for
to do media
for this stream, and then they cut the stream short. It doesn't make sense.
You could see it on the faces of like bids and stuff, because I was watching the stream and then they got tapped on the shoulder being like, "We need you guys to get off the stage," and they were like, "Wait, what? Hold on a minute! Like, I thought we were doing the whole thing here," and they're like, "No, you're on side station 1."
Best of 3 in 2 hours.
Stop it! Watch your mouth, son, if you want to get on.
But like, I mean, that we'll not talk about this anymore, because I feel like if we did, we'd probably damage ourselves more than anything. We'll talk about the CDC as a whole this weekend.
Yes.
So the teams, what happened this weekend?
Obviously, Europe, boys.
The biggest. Well, actually, SNG. So we'll talk about Europe as a whole, because obviously Europe as a whole, maybe not the best weekend actually when you
2 out of 3 ain't bad though.
But Singularity, what a performance from them. They haven't had the best preseason. I think they haven't won any 2K.
No, it's been War who's won every 2K.
They've won. Sorry, they won the second 2K, Singularity. But beyond that, they've pretty much been having anywhere ranging from a second place to top 32 in the 2Ks. Last 2K, they managed to go game 5 with War. Pretty intriguing
round 10
event, as it were, before coming into this event. And then, of course, they come into the event and they perform pretty much perfectly. Beyond, of course, the Frio, which happened, I think it was like winners round 2 or something.
I think it was later than that.
It was winners round. Oh no, sorry, not winners round 2. It was round 6. Yeah, so they lost Frio to Renegades. Yeah. So beyond that, it was a pretty good performance in Singularity. You really have to give it to them, and they deserved it as well. I mean, there was a lot of questions for me personally about Singularity coming to this event. When we were doing the 2K shows, we were discussing whether or not they are going to be as good without Kleenex and Keza. To me, Chain and Maple played so well this weekend. You really have to give it to them.
What a monster.
Just like they haven't lost it.
Literally all of them played so well, especially like, as you said, that was such a big talking point for us. Like, now you took them 2 players out of the mix. Can they perform to that level, to what we know and what we've seen throughout the whole of the Black Ops 4 year? And well, from when their roster was formed, of course, with the roster we was talking about. And Jesus, they can.
Yeah, they had a boot camp, I think, provided for them in the States before they went to the event. I think that did them loads of good. I think SNG must have really supported that really well. And I'm really happy with what the guys did. I think everyone played well. Even I think Bids had a monster series in the second best of 5. Bids just went nuclear. Obviously, Chain was the big power and force in the 3-0 that they got in the first best of 5 against Hybrid. And then throughout the bracket, it was business as usual. Like, everyone was just popping off. Everyone had their moments, as far as I'm aware. I was seeing screenshots from the games. Jed was doing just Jed things, running at people with a SMG, just high pressure all the time. Same thing he was doing last year. Nothing's changed. Insight was just not moving as usual.
He was holding down St. Petro.
He's the most static AR we've had in a while.
No bullshit though. I genuinely think Jamie is like one of the best assault rifles that we've got in Europe at the moment. Like, him and Rated probably like the 2.
100%.
Can I ask a question? Did we have a big patch though before the final 2K? Was there? I can't remember if it was a big patch before the final 2K.
I don't think so.
No,
it was after. I think it was after.
Because looking at the stats, right, it seems like the final 2K is sort of the bookmarker for how teams were going to do in the launch weekend. Because you have, of course, Singularity. He came second in the 2K and then ended up winning the event. You have Hybrid Brack over in America, who came second under a different team name. And of course, War, which is a very special case where they ended up coming third at the event, and they obviously won 5 2Ks in a row beforehand, and therefore did win that last one. But War, I mean, that whole situation with War, you really have to feel for them, because you feel as if maybe Singularity don't win the event if War don't have that moment. I mean, it's so rough, man, because there are so many people to blame for this. I'm speechless about this. This is
the thing, right? So obviously, like, I find the irony of it just insane that they won't wait 15 minutes for someone to come back from literally hospital, but they'll just have to usher them off main stage as well. Like, fuck me, man. The irony of it. It's just like, quick, always on the move, boys, always on the move. Like, Jesus, mad. Like,
I think Dave made a great point with the Queen.
Oh, is this about the scump thing?
The scump thing. Yeah. I think that's such a crucial and important point. That
I think for those of you who didn't see it, the essence of the tweet was basically, if Steve-O was scump, they'd have 100% had all the time they needed.
No, they would have probably put an extra 20 minutes on top.
Yeah.
Like, I think I don't know.
It's rough anyway. I mean, it was an adverse effect of the scheduling the previous fucking day. I mean, you know, maybe if you're not even going to plan to have challenges on stream, maybe run it for the entirety of Sunday. Like, because it wasn't the plan initially to have it on the Sunday, apparently. So why would you not just have it running through Sunday and stop making teams do 17-hour days? Like, it's obviously shit like with Vortex is going to happen. Like, I don't know. It's, yeah. I feel really bad for War. I
understand what you're saying there, Sean, in chat. I think as a European, we can get blindsided by the bias. But I understand the essence of what you're saying. I think there would be obviously more community backlash if it was Scump that was all of a sudden ushered. But obviously, as it's Steve-O, like, obviously, maybe a lot of Americans didn't really see it as that way. But I still think the essence of it is there. Like, if you're going to schedule that and you don't want it on stream initially, and that's your schedule, there's plenty of time in the day. You've got 3 teams left to play, 3 series in effect. It's I understand the perspective, and I understand that, and I do understand the point at which Dave was coming from on that one. I think there is a huge argument to be made for it. But one thing that I will say is that Europe at least the top teams in Europe are on the map globally. The 2 top teams. I think it was a thoroughly underwhelming weekend for the rest of Europe. I think honourable mentions go to top 16 for Electrify. But that was always going to happen.
Well,
it was decent,
I don't know.
roster.
You look at that roster, and they hadn't
really played a lot. I hadn't seen them in 2Ks a great deal.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's because their 2K performances weren't the best. Like, I don't know what you're expecting. They got like top 16 pretty much every single 2K besides the first 3, and even then, it's like just like I don't know. Top 16 is pretty much what I expected from Electrify. Everyone else, you look at Train Hard, they had a fairly sad weekend, I won't lie.
Yeah, that was thorough. It was a bit underwhelming. I think they came into SNG when they were on their losers bracket rampage, which I think is what shut them down eventually, if I'm not mistaken.
Train Hard, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, that one's a bit of pill to swallow for Keza, but I think for the rest of the team, I think there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know if they're going to London, but we'll see.
The one thing I will say, London Royal Ravens Academy team. Fuck, you have to feel bad for them.
Oh, dude, my heart hurts.
For Endura.
My heart hurts for Dylan.
By any means, right?
Oh, Dylan.
And he gets fucked over, I think, with visa issues, right?
No, it wasn't. I'm pretty sure it was his passport was not in the mail, and DX had it in this country or something like that, and they wouldn't or somewhere, and they wouldn't be able to get it to him in time, so he couldn't get on the plane. Literally, you remember he was tweeting out about a courier service that was fucking him up? It was literally because they had his passport. That's how I understand it.
Yeah. Well, regardless, the thing is, the Royal Ravens Academy, despite how, to me, I'll say it straight up, how underwhelming they've been in the 2Ks for a team of that caliber.
Really tumultuous, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's not. Let's be honest. I think they I don't know. I expected better from them, but you can't take anything away from the academy this weekend simply because of the fact that they didn't have one of their players.
They had Brad filling in, and even still, they did pretty good with that.
Yeah, like top 24 for a team that you have to basically get a really emergency fill in. That's really good for the academy. Like, you've got to be proud of that if you're those guys. I just think they're going to be so annoyed with themselves that they couldn't do better, and so annoyed just with the situation in general. I feel like it's so rough, man.
It's uncontrollable as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can be. I think it could be a little bit more lenient if it was a controllable situation. Say you're being fucked over from his own demise. But the fact that it's an uncontrollable situation as well, and on that last second, you have to just find someone and go for it. Like it's always going to be tough, and I think they made the best out of a shit situation.
Yeah, there was not a lot they could do, and my heart goes out to Dylan. Obviously, really wanting to play that fucking first event and not being able to get the opportunity to be there. Ah, man, that team could have done so much more. And then you see like later on Twitter, like people like Defrag are just so dejected, and you can't help but feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
Like it's so rough. I just feel awful. And I think what they did show, even as a pickup, was pretty good. I think obviously top 24 is to be expected. With Madcap, probably top 8. I'd probably hasten to bet. Top 12 definitely. And overall, I think Europe pretty reasonable to suggest that they got screwed a little bit. Obviously, Dave War had their problems with Steve-O, and obviously Madcat had his problems with the Royal Ravens Academy and all that business. With regards to other European teams, though, I got to give special shout-outs to Tal. I think, what is that, Spanish team, mostly?
Yeah, but they were always going to do well. I mean, I expect
them to do well, but not as well as they did.
No, I'd fully disagree with you. Tal like on paper, that roster is insane. And you look at some players, you've got Puny and Vidian, Yako, and Super. Like, you look at those players, and some of the teams that they got beaten by, I will say, Tal, great top 12 placement, but I would have wanted a lot better from them.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like on paper, that's an insane roster. You look at the placements those guys had last season, much better than that. And like it's
last season on what though?
Yeah, 4.
Well, LAN, yeah, LAN.
I thought you were talking on seasons.
No, but LAN, but obviously Buller couldn't fucking play on LAN last season because he was playing ESBU.
Not fucking Rancor though, is he? Let's be real.
But yeah, I like. It's a very good team. And
he's not exactly EEG's best admin, is he? Vickle.
Vickle, man. He is the greatest admin of all time.
Oh dear. Well, Malta references. We can't keep on talking about it, guys. We have to move on to 4.0 very soon. I mean, like you're right in a way. Europe did do relatively well. That being said, you look at the top 16, which is kind of what I always look at.
Percentage for teams that went, I thought they did all right.
Yeah, true.
How many European teams attended the event? Like, obviously, there's some of them that are just always going to trash out. There's so many people who just waste money on garbage teams that are never going to get out of the top 100. Some people who waste money on that, sending them all the way to the States for that. Like, but you know, overall, I thought it was a pretty successful weekend for us. Good shift.
I mean, the Americans did better. I expect.
Well, that's because there's more of them. It's like, obviously.
Yeah, but the Americans that did do better, you feel like maybe they shouldn't have done. Like, you had Hybrid Black coming out of nowhere. I mean, they were some silly seed coming into this event, and they ended up getting second, and that had some shit 2Ks up until the very last one. So props to them. They've even got a fucking debut player on their team, I believe, Mac, who has pretty much had like no experience in the CDC or in Open Division, I should say. Just coming in, and they still performed second place. Again. You've got fucking like, I don't know, Illusion Esports. Like, I just haven't paid enough attention to the amateur scene right now.
You did pretty good as well.
Yeah, but you have done all right.
But the thing is, like, us Europeans going over to the States for this event was like fucking 300 versus Xerxes' army. It was like, obviously we're not going to really be doing that great, are we? Like, there's not enough of us with enough talent.
Well, no, but normally, I mean, what we saw towards the end of the Black Ops 4 season was the European teams and the Australian teams outperforming most of the American teams, and that, like, you can't compare it to now, where you have these American teams that are actually just outperforming us, and that's just it's just the way it is. I will say I'm very happy with the two Australian teams that did attend the event, the Renegades and Mindfreak, both teams getting at least top 12. So
that's good. Talent in that region.
Well, for a region that has literally fuck all practice against anybody, obviously outside the region,
and infrastructure, literally fuck all infrastructure.
Their 2Ks are genuinely made up of Australians playing the Japanese on incredible connection wars. Like, that is the APAC 2Ks in a nutshell. Like, so Yeah, like for Renegades and Mindfreak to come out on very little practice against the international teams since last season, props to them because they did very well.
Yeah, I can't really say anything more to that.
Whilst this is a bit of a lull period, can I actually just say congrats to Spaceman?
No, you can't.
Just announced
no,
he's
don't
actually
gas
joining
him.
Rocket League esports commentator for season 9 of the Rocket League rival series.
Wow, nice one, Sean. You've gone from Call of Duty to
a way better esport. No way, I'm joking. I'm joking. You've gone from an esport with nuance and technicality to who can hit the ball into the goal.
Hey, it's a pretty bloody good game now.
It is mad hype.
It is pretty sick. But yeah, congrats, man. That's actually pretty big. That's actually awesome.
Well done, man.
Yeah, big stuff.
Not getting a well done from me, shit kid.
Fuck off.
Stop being salty, Brody. You're basically jealous because it never happened to you.
That's true.
Shut up and go and play Magic. Come on.
Hey, Sean plays Magic. You can't be giving him gas and then fucking roasting him.
Basically just fucking Hearthstone, mate. Let's be real.
But Sean didn't tell us it has mana.
Legends of Runeterra, mate. It's way better. You should play that. It's just come out.
I do actually want to play that, to be fair.
I've got the beta for it. It's sick.
I think as well, another thank you, Jesus. Another congratulations we should give, of course, is to the S&G boys, of course, for winning the CDC Open.
I'm so up for that, man. I have big love for Jamie and Jed. Like, fuck.
It's deserved because obviously, like I said,
that's a story for me. Like, I feel like I've grown as a caster with these guys. Like, casting them all last season and stuff. Like, it's like these are like my boys. These are our boys, and they've gone and done it. Like, I'm really, really happy with them. I'm really happy for them, and just couldn't be happier that they were the ones to win it. Really, I was watching the entire finals, and I was just shitting myself the whole time.
I don't think they would. I thought War were going to pull it out of the bag.
Yeah,
I do feel as well. I mean, this isn't a slight against SNG or Hybrid. I do feel as well that if Vortex hadn't have been as sick as he was,
that would have been an easy clap.
I feel like War would have probably won the event. They were the most consistent team coming in.
You can't discredit though winning 2 best of 5s. That's nuts.
Oh, 100%.
No, 100%.
And a 3-0 as well.
Yeah.
3-2 for the first one. Yeah, 3-2 for second.
Hybrid woke up. It took them 6 maps to wake up, but
even took on 3 originally, but
yeah, it's Hybrid are a pretty good team, and props for S&G to winning the event. We'll try and close this off with a couple of last points about the challenges bracket. Anything we really were surprised about, or
just a quick question: did challenges bracket actually have vetoes in the end?
Yes.
Not as far as I'm aware, did it?
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah, they did have vetoes. Yeah,
right, okay.
Pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm surprised by that because it was best of 3 for quite a vast period.
We were talking about that on the last 2K show. I'm pretty sure. If it would have vetoes.
Sure
even best of 3s have vetoes though, I think.
Yeah. I was just wondering because they do take a lot of time. That was all.
I think winners. I think round 1 and round 2 are set in stone maps, and I think from there, even though it's still best of 3s, it's vetoes. I think they just do 1 and 2 preset maps just to get the ball going. So there's no delays or anything. And then I think from round 3, I could be entirely wrong, but I think from round 3 you're looking at vetoes.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say as a slight on the bracket overall is just the scheduling. The CDC bracket was a bit all over the place. 17-hour days and stuff was a little bit out of whack.
Yeah, but this is teething issues at the end of the day. Like you're gonna fix this for London. Hopefully they'll fix it for London. I mean, it depends really if they have a stream, because obviously you don't want to take stream viewership away.
There's 32 teams in London, mate. I can't see there being an issue with scheduling in London.
But similarly, you don't know how many stations they have. So you can't say 32
true.
teams and it's perfectly fine. I mean, you could have, if you had the same amount of stations as Rocker did, then fucking solid. 32 teams, great number. But if you have a maximum of 8 stations,
8 stations,
I'd say 8 stations is fine actually. If you have a maximum of like 4 stations, then you're in fucking trouble. So let's not
Random's just going from 250k prize pool to 10k. I think that's to scale though. Scale the events down.
Well, let's be clear, Randoms. These are homestand events at the end of the day. It's not like we're going to be experiencing like fucking 250k events quite a lot. Like you're gonna have to talk about this in a way that
Gary V being the philanthropist he is.
Well, I think that was probably not put up by Rocker.
No, it won't be. It's opening weekend. It's going to be Activision helped, isn't it? But either way, like, just a quick shout out, Gary V. What a fucking event, by the way. What a fucking guy as well. Just straight up. Now one of my favourite CEOs in esports. Let's go. Go Gary V. Big shout outs. Brody, you're muted, mate.
Fantastic, bro. I've been watching Gary V for ages. He's just amazing.
Donnie. Lovely. What I would say though is I'm excited for the CDL. I don't have any more comments on the bracket really. I'm pretty impressed with the preparation that went in. Obviously, I'm not too big aware on a lot of the North American teams, so I can't really judge too much on what exactly happened there.
Yeah.
But even still, I think it's pretty decent. I think so far so good for the CDC. Obviously, we would like a stream. We're going to be in London anyway, so we'll be rooting and tooting for all the time to come. And I'm pretty happy with the way this weekend went, in all fairness. I thought the CDL part of it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Fuck me, it was brilliant. Just to finish off. The CDC obviously needs a stream, but happy for the SNG boys, and that's pretty much my closing thoughts.
Just need to ask this, because I did promise Heckful in the chat, I think it was Heckful that asked it, that we'd get around to saying it. Predictions for London in 2 weeks' time. I mean, I'm sure we'll have a whole show around this.
I'm not going to say anything right now until later.
Pro teams or CDC? Pro teams or CDC?
CDC. We ain't fuck the pro teams. CDC.
Well, then, yeah, I'm definitely not saying anything then, because CDC could
based
be,
on what we saw in Minnesota. Come on, Chris, don't be a little pussy.
Okay, I don't even know what
the thing is, though, we've just had another patch literally about 2 hours ago.
That's pretty.
You can change it when it comes to the show. Don't wimp out. Just tell me your name. Give me a name, Chris.
Your mum.
Oh.
Okay. Wow. I mean, her reaction times are going to be pretty fucking slow. So, I can't imagine you'll be right in that sense. But yeah.
I'm going to make a...
Oh. If I had to say someone, I'd probably say Team War.
I'm going to go with Ravens. I think having Madcat back, I think they're going to be an entirely different beast. We'll see how it goes, but I'm going for the Ravens are going to play a lot different.
I'm going to go for the SNG, the chain three-peat.
I'm going to go for the SNG Academy finals and SNG to win.
SNG Academy?
SNG versus the Academy.
Oh, right, okay.
And then SNG to win.
Oh.
I'm with you on the three-peat.
There's no one here really crediting that War hype train outside of Brody.
I said War.
Oh, I thought you said Ravens. Sorry, Brody said Ravens. Never mind.
I said Ravens. Yeah, I got a feeling the Ravens are going to come back and find their groove for the.
I think it's because you said Brody's mom. You know, Chris, it's Georgia.
All over the place.
She's my favorite player of all time.
Mate. I mean, she is your age, to be fair, Chris. So
exactly.
Understandable. You empathetic, isn't it? Really.
Chris is your dad, mate.
Oh, mate. I'd love that. To be fair.
No, you wouldn't.
He wouldn't love that. Chris is their dad. Right. On that note, guys, I think we should probably take a bow there and say we're done for the CDC discussion. Are we
going to do a pre-Malta show, or are we going to do a post-Malta?
Yeah,
not Malta. Sorry, EG.
At London. Or EG. Wait, are we doing EG?
We're doing AM events, aren't we? So we'll do a post. We won't do a pre-EG. We'll do a post-EG.
Post-EG. We'll do a Beyond the Call post-EG event.
We won't be doing the 2K show this weekend, just to clarify.
Yeah. We're not. Because there's not any casting on Saturday really.
During the day we can, but on the evening I'm casting EG.
Well, we'll maybe do a 1K show this weekend, guys.
It probably won't be a very long one.
We are, as announced, we are going to be in the EEG casting team this weekend. Well, 3 of us are. Chris, maybe not. Who knows?
We don't know.
I said I was, and I'm still waiting for him to give me the schedule.
Here's the best thing you guys can do to see if there will be a 2K show. Go follow the BTC_COD Twitter. And then you will see if we are going to be doing a 2K show or...
Hang on. Sorry. Electrify in chat. Sorry to ruin all your predictions at London, lad. Electrify, mate.
Omni.
No. No. I don't doubt Joey Gizmo.
I'd love to have faith in Joey Gizmo, but...
We'll see. So that's going to do it. We'll be back, I think, for the Beyond the Call EEG show or after show, probably next Monday or Tuesday. But if you do want to catch EEG Season 1 playoffs, will be live from Thursday night. All of us will be casting it. So make sure you tune in because we finally get to cast some Call of Duty for the first time in a while. But from us here in the Beyond the Call, we're going to see you guys later. Thank you for tuning in and...
Fuck you.